The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has granted full approval for the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. The decision means the Pfizer shot will now be more widely available across the United States. And the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick has more on this story from Washington.
The FDA gave its approval for emergency authorization back in December, and since then, Pfizer-BioNTech has been working on getting the full approval from the FDA, which was granted today. So now the vaccine is approved, full license to be used in people 16 and up. For those 12 to 15, it's still under emergency authorization, pending more data being given to the FDA for approval in that age group. And there are still ongoing studies for people under 12. So far, no vaccine has been approved for that age group. The FDA saying in a statement that the public can be confident that this vaccine meets the high standards for safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing quality that the FDA requires of an approval product. To get this full approval, Pfizer-BioNTech had to give more data to the FDA, building on the results of the first clinical trial that they did. There was more follow-up done with those who participated in that study. There were inspections of the manufacturing facilities, more details on the manufacturing process. So a lot more paperwork was done in the last few months and more investigation and study by the FDA. The FDA calling today a milestone in the fight against COVID-19. And they do acknowledge that this vaccine was approved expeditiously, they say in a statement. But again, trying to reassure the public that it was a thorough investigation done and that this vaccine meets its high standards. As for the consequences of this decision, well, health experts are hoping that this gives confidence to people who have not been vaccinated yet, who may have been on the fence and were waiting for this approval to decide whether to get the shot or not. And health experts are also predicting that this could lead to a wave of more vaccine mandates by schools, companies, other public institutions. Again, some of them saying they had been waiting for this FDA approval before instituting vaccine mandates. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Washington.
And now joining us is Dr. Stella Saffo. She is an assistant professor of internal medicine with the Mount Sinai Health System. She is also the founder of Just Equity for Health, a healthcare improvement company, and she is in New York. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Saffo.
Thanks for having me, Ruthie.
So first of all, why don't we talk about this approval and what this move could mean in terms of public confidence in the vaccines?
So it's a pretty big deal because what a lot of folks have been saying that's been concerning to them is this feeling that although we know that the COVID vaccines have been tested on individuals, that this term emergency use makes them feel as though it isn't reliable. And so to know that the FDA has done its full process, has approved it in the way that we approve many of our other technologies and medications to be used in healthcare systems, I think will actually help move some people off the fence.
In terms of moving people off the fence, is there at all sort of a sense of exactly how many people are hesitant because of that emergency approval versus a full approval? How many more vaccinations in terms of the percentage-wise in the United States could we see as a result of this?
I think it's hard to say. You know, when a lot of these surveys are done, they're asking people, where are you in terms of wanting to get vaccinated? Are you a definite no? Are you a maybe? Are you a yes and a willing? So you're looking at that middle maybe kind of category that definitely varies based on the groups that you're talking to. One thing we saw that kind of tells us that there is quite a few individuals that fit into this maybe category is when we had the mandates for healthcare workers, mandates for certain employers, you saw individuals who were kind of on the fence say, you know what, at this point I'll go ahead and get the vaccine. So we know that there are people who are not entrenched in their no for getting the vaccine, and it's those individuals that we are sure will at least respond somewhat more towards a yes as they're seeing this information come out from the FDA.
And now I was looking at some numbers here, and this is in a Associated Press, NORC, Center for Public Affairs research poll, and it says nearly 6 in 10 Americans favor requiring people to be fully vaccinated to travel on airplanes or attend crowded public events. So when we're talking about this full FDA approval, do you think we'll see more of a move in that direction of requiring what is becoming known as vaccine passports?
I think so. It's definitely that we have now a fully approved vaccine to offer, but it's also the Delta is making this scene much more unsafe for all of us. it is more transmissible and it's more deadly, as we're seeing from the numbers of individuals who are passing away once they get COVID, who are not vaccinated. And so there's this real sense of a convergence of factors that now we have a fully vaccinated vaccine out there, and we're looking at a variant of COVID that is very deadly. And I think it's going to push that number, or my hope is that it'll push that number from 6 to 10 to more like 8 to 10 that support the kind of protective travel mandates that we absolutely need to have.
And since you raised the Delta variant, certainly that is the variant of concern, not only in the United States, we're seeing that here in Canada too. So wondering, with this full approval, how much of an impact might that have on the spread of the Delta variant? And really, what is it that you're seeing with the trajectory of the growth in cases of that variant?
Delta is scary. I mean, right now, many of us that are providing care are feeling very nervous about the intensity of the spread in certain areas, especially where individuals are not vaccinated. We have learned at this point that even with vaccines, you can transmit COVID. However, you don't get as sick from it, and hopefully you won't even end up in the hospital at all. And so the game now, if you will, is that we may not be able to stop the spread of Delta in the way that we would ideally have wanted, but we will be able to keep people from inundating the hospital and the healthcare systems the way that we're seeing down in Florida, the way that we're seeing down in Texas. And so that has become the new goal. Let's vaccinate as many people as we can so that if they do get unfortunately infected with Delta, that they're actually protected from the worst outcomes. And unfortunately, individuals who are not vaccinated right now are suffering severe levels of hospitalization and long-haul COVID, as well as, and this is the concern that we have, the majority of those that are dying from COVID at this point are individuals that are not vaccinated. And so vaccinations are really about decreasing how ill you'll get once you do get COVID.
And finally, a question somewhat related to hesitancy here. I know that when it comes to serious side effects with the vaccines, it does remain rare. That said, there has been sort of growing evidence that we've seen side effects be added to the vaccine side effects list. So wondering whether or not more research will uncover more, or is this just something that is constantly evolving, as is our knowledge about COVID-19 itself and these variants?
It's exactly what you've said. It's constantly evolving. I think everyone would like to have the kind of vaccine that has no side effects. We know everything we need to know about it. We have 50 years of data, and yet we're in a pandemic. And so we really have to weigh some of the uncertainties of the vaccine against the certainty of the morbidity and mortality of getting COVID-19. And so I think that there's this kind of reality that many of us public health practitioners are really speaking to, which is, yes, there are some side effects from the vaccines that we're concerned about. There could be some issues with getting the vaccine. But the biggest issue that we see is when you get COVID and you are so sick that you die, that it makes it worthwhile to get the vaccines. And as I say that, I really want to emphasize the vaccines are safe. We vaccinated 200 million individuals. For the most part, the most that you'll have is a sore arm. The vaccines are safe. And the reality of the fear from and the kind of risk of COVID is high enough that the vaccines are our best bet at this point, in addition to continuing to use mitigation strategies like masking and social distancing.
Well, we really appreciate your time and the clarity on this today. Thank you so much, Dr. Stella Saffo.
My pleasure. Thank you.